everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping things. If you are watching us through Facebook, you can go to the StreamYard site and just register and then your name so that we know who you are if you are participating in the chat with us today. Hi. It's good to see you with. Thank you for being here. Hi, Howie. Howie has the Rift Nation, the Orion Effect, and a new show, guys. You're not going to want to miss it. It's G3, right, Howie? G3. I forget the name of your co-host for that, but talking about paranormal equipment, myths, facts, taking it apart, teaching everybody how to investigate with some education behind it. Hi, Contessa. Joanna. Hi, Joanna. Sean. Thanks, Howie. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for being here. If you are watching us on Roku, you can go to the search and you can type in UFO space paranormal, and we should come up on there as well too. If you're interested in any of the archived shows, you can go to SoundCloud, look up UFO Paranormal Radio, and we are there as well too. You're welcome, Howie. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I will share it out after. I'm excited for this show today to have a friend and colleague coming on. And I it's so funny because we were telling each other that we'll have each other's backs. And I said we might have to do this in 2 shows because we'll get talking and it might go sideways. So let me share my friend. So we have on the show today author Stephanie Malo. So Stephanie lives near London, Ontario, Canada with her husband, 2 children, and 4 cats. She plays the bagpipes. Oh my gosh, that's something that I didn't even know, which fills me with great joy when she remembers to play the bagpipes. Writes at the local library every week and has a full-time career in sales and marketing. She guides a mindfulness meditation group in her community, which has quickly grown in membership and has expanded to 2 additional locations, showing there is a need for people to carve out space to stop and consider their lives for a moment and to wake up from the trance in which we can find ourselves. Stephanie is the author of Stopping to Smell the Flowers, Extraordinary Observations of Everyday Life, and Stopping to Smell the Flowers, Everything's Coming Up Roses, and the 3rd installment, which is coming out this fall, Stopping to Smell the Flowers, The Space in Between. Please welcome Stephanie to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. It's just like hanging out with a friend.
Totally.
It's just hanging out with a friend, having our conversation, and we get to talk about all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I really appreciate you. You've been a huge part of my healing journey, and the work you do is truly remarkable. So
Thanks.
I can't wait to talk with you about the things that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much. I'm just going to come back and I'm going to do a shout out because I missed some people saying hello, and I just want to acknowledge that they're here so that they know that they're being seen and heard, because we all want to be seen and heard. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for being here, Kim. Hi, Heather. Heather, I can't wait to have you on too. You've got some things happening that once that ball gets rolling, we need to get you on here and promote the work that you're doing too. Sorry. Hi, Cindy. Thank you for being here. Kathy, hello, hello, hello. Julie Dow. Hi, Kathy. Jackie White. Hi, Jackie. Let me just roll through here. I had so many questions, so I did write a few notes down, not a whole lot, but a few just so I didn't go sideways too much. Can you give people a little bit of a background of a little bit about your background?
Sure. So there's a lot to tell. So
Yes.
I have a regular day job, but I'm not going to tell you about that. I have this passion and this calling that I have listened to. It's almost like been a tap on the shoulder, and I'm like, what's that? All the way along. So
Is it
I
like the
know,
good angel and the devil on both sides kind of thing?
yeah,
Whispering like this is where you need to go next.
yeah, and both sides would be the tap and the knowing, and the other side, you have no right to do that, right? So working with those, giving ourselves permission to follow our calling. So I've been working on that since I'd say 2010. So all my life I've been I write, and it took me a while to realize that. But while I was thinking about what we might talk about for the show, I remembered that in grade 9 I wrote a poem about the seasons. And it was really good. I wish I knew where it was. It's one of those things that just got lost in the shuffle. I did keep it for a long time. But the teacher gave me 9.5 out of 10. And I went and asked him, I said, why isn't it 10 out of 10? Because I knew its value. Such a funny thing for someone in grade 9 to be like, so why isn't it 10?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I just figured you copied it from somewhere. Like, and I remember thinking, I didn't mind that it was a 9.5. I almost looked at it as a compliment, like something that I produced could be mistaken for the real deal, right? So I think that was a big pivoting moment for me. But along the way, like, I think a lot of creative endeavors simmer for a bit. So fast forward to the first book, Stopping to Smell the Flowers, Extraordinary Observations of Everyday Life, came out. It was published in 2012. So the way that happened was everything was kind of organic, or just step by step by step. So because I would write stories, I write with a pen and a paper. So I had lots of pieces of paper everywhere. And when my daughter was born, obviously busy raising her at the beginning, but when she was a little bit older, like toddlerish, I thought I should really type these stories out just to honor them. And so I started to type out my handwriting. And so as I did this, I'm like typing and typing, and then I'd be like, oh, this piece of paper, this story here on this piece of paper would go in between these two stories for sure. And then I'm like, oh, this one's at the end. And then I thought, oh my God, this could be a book. So that was that tap on the shoulder. This could be a book. And right away I was like, no, it couldn't. No. But then again, that simmered, and I thought, why couldn't it be a book? So,
and that's one of the chapters in there.
Yes.
Everyone has a book in them.
Yes, exactly. So as the books came along, I start writing about the story, the experiences with the book, because a lot of this and a lot of what I'd love to talk about tonight is just this. We need to give ourselves permission to create. We need to give ourselves permission to open our channels, because there is so much out there for each of us. So, tonight I'll be using my example, just like in my stories, from my lens, but it applies to everyone. We're given this amazing opportunity in just being here. And yes, it's hard. It's not all roses, but at a certain point, if we can kind of open to, so what's here for me, it can be fun and exciting. So then I put this book together, and then I started looking up. I remember I said to my husband, I don't have a lot of visual memories for whatever reason, but I remember this. He was cooking in the kitchen, and I said, I was at the dining room table, and I looked at him. I said, I'm going to have to publish this. And I remember he looked at me like, how are we going to do that? So I started by submitting proposals to traditional book publishers. I think we're also very used to following the steps we're supposed to follow, but it's all good. We learn
that we perceive we're supposed to follow.
Yeah. And so then I would submit and that was hard, writing a letter to describe the book. Talking about writing is not that easy, because it's something that flows through me. anyway, I thought I did a pretty good job with that. And then all of a sudden I thought, why am I waiting for someone's permission to do this? And at that time, self-publishing was very easy to do. So I thought, I'm going to just self-publish it. At the very least, I'll have one book that my kids can look at of the things I wrote, all organized, right? Well, yeah. So then one thing led to another, and I self-published the book, and, you know, back to that, the tap on the shoulder, and then the, what are you doing? I had the book in my hand. So it was it was a full copy of the book. And the publisher said, this is it. If you find any mistakes in it or want to change, this is your last chance. So I'm like, it was good to go. But I really felt like I'd had another baby, because I think, like, when we create things, we are literally bringing something into the world. And I remember thinking, so that other tap on the shoulder, what are you doing? I thought, oh my goodness, is this thing I created going to affect my career? Like, what's that going to do? So I remember telling my boss, I've written and published a book. You should probably know about it. And I remember he says, well, I should probably read it. And I was we probably can't swear on the podcast, but bricks. Because I was like, oh, my boss is reading the book now. It just really felt like being a little bit exposed.
Well, there's vulnerability to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got back to me. He said, well, I finished the book. He says, it's really good. He said, usually when I read a book, I get bored in the middle of a book or towards the end. There's some part in a book where I'm like, am I going to finish this or not? He said, it never happened with this one. And then he said, so what is it exactly? What is this book? And I said, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It just flowed through me. So there's a bit of, like, even how I would describe what it is. I have some notes.
Yeah. So we're going to pause just for a quick second. Catherine, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing out the podcast today. We aren't doing readings, or I'm not sharing messages from Spirit. We're just really talking about Stephanie's journey and her book. But I do appreciate you being here. And Deborah Morse, one of my most favorite people in the whole world. So Deborah Morse is a friend in California, has a wonderful background in nursing, lawyer, and so beautifully witchy woo, and writing. She is a writer as well too. So she says, fascinating that we see our true talent when we're young, but sometimes we lose confidence because we listen to criticism, which may be coming from those who have no real basis to criticize.
Mm-hmm.
And I think life gets in the way too, right? We tuck things to the back because we feel our responsibilities and obligations require us to focus our attention somewhere else. We don't prioritize creativity in maybe the way that we should.
Yes. And I feel like the loss of confidence can also come from an internal source too, which I've been working on a lot, which is our self-limiting beliefs. Because if we truly just let our barriers down and just allowed ourselves to have more fun in creative pursuits, we can let go of some of that. I have no right to do this. Like, we're often talking to ourselves negatively first too, right?
And that's also perceived and projected because, our closest circle may have fear in what we're doing. And so they project that fear onto us, or, whatever. And that's a big part. What I found interesting in the way that it's almost like its own oracle card or an oracle deck, because you do not have to read it from start to finish. You could go from the back to the front. And as somebody who displays some beautiful neurodivergent tendencies, I need to go here so I know how this ends, but I'm going to go back and then I'm okay to read the whole thing. But this is laid out in different stories and poetry. It's your musings, and we are getting the lessons through the stories. And that's like, it's multicultural, like that every culture may have a main theme and the stories are just told differently. And you're sharing from your lens, and we can open it up in any way.
Yeah.
So my question that I wanted to ask you in the writing process, did the stories, and maybe you already answered it when you were sharing, did the stories come first or did the categories?
Definitely
And
the story.
so people don't know about the categories. Could you
Mhm.
explain that part of the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah. So the first book we'll call the pink one. So we don't have to keep saying the title again, if that's
Yes.
okay. The second book is the blue one. And then there's a third one coming out. So the first one, I'm sorry, by the second one, I had decided to organize the stories into categories. So let me see if I can find the section where it's at. Yeah, so this is good. So this gives a bit of flavor of the books. First one doesn't have them organized like this, but it's still the same kind of book.
So did it unfold that way? That was kind of like, did it intuitively flow through you? Like, okay, so when I wrote those stories, this is about this
Yeah.
category.
Yes. Oh my gosh, everything intuitively flowed. The whole process is very much almost like an automatic writing situation. So the story always comes first. So the way that I write is, I'm fascinated by this. Like, it's part of the fun of the creating, right? So
Yeah.
I will notice something. So the first step is, I'm doing my life, I'm this or that, the sunset, what someone said, this and that, and I'll be like, that's a story. So I literally usually write down 3 words, because it's not like I can stop and write a story all the time, although I like to stop and smell the flowers. So I can come back to those 3 words, and I have come back to 3 words written down as a story idea years later, 3, 4, 5 years later, and I'll be like, okay, here was this story, and I'm like, got it, and I'll just write it out. Some people have said, how do you have time to write books? And I'm like, how do you not have time? It brings me joy, and to be totally honest, it doesn't take that long. So I've got 3 words down for the story idea, and I sit down and I'm like, there's a bit of a process where I'm like, just sit there, it's my coffee, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I'm like, ready, and then it just comes out, it just flows out. So then I take the handwritten stuff, put it into the computer, and then I'll know which story goes where, just like the first book. I'll know this one goes in between this one's at the end. And so then for the second book, it just intuitively happened. I'm like, wait, there's categories here.
Mm-hmm.
So the categories in the blue book are solitude, rest and recharge, lost and found. Love that.
Yep.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Synchronicity and symbolism, hobbies and interests, relationships, presence. Yeah. And so I loved your comment about almost using the books as an oracle type device, because as I have done chapters, book signing things, and summer markets and things, this always happens. People will walk by, and I have to market it a bit. Would you like to hear about my book? Or people will just walk by, and I'm sure. And then I'll talk to them for a little bit, and they often flip it open.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, they flip it open, and they're like, they look at me and they look at their friend, and they're like, I can't believe I flipped this book open to this story. I have to buy it. It has happened more times than not. It's just fun.
And I love that part. I love that, our higher self always knows what we're needing before sometimes we're consciously aware of it, right? Or the sign that we're looking for, the things that we're needing. And the only way to do it is to stop and be present. So those people who are flipping through the book are stopping to be present. And we always take that breath in, and then then we move. And it's through that moment, that in between, right?
Yes.
Taking the breath in and letting it out.
Absolutely.
So, and that there's no right or wrong. And I think people need that permission as well, too. There's no right or wrong in how you read the book or how you process it, because it will be individual. What it was for you may not be the same for us, right? Just like no different than any other art pieces. We're going to be evoked and inspired in different ways based on our experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to talk about that?
If you were to look at a painting, everyone is going to give their own interpretation of what a painting is conjuring up in them, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Like, we feel things physically. Where do you feel in your body when you look at this painting? So the other thing that I was going to mention too is that the third book, Stopping to Smell the Flowers, the Space in Between, which is still incubating, it's done being edited, but I did another addition to it, which was it's almost like every short story in that book has a story after the story to kind of, it's almost like the reader and I are interpreting together what it could mean, and it takes the story even deeper. It's really cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and that was something that intuitively came to me as well as I wrote the book. I thought, oh my gosh, I need to add a story to the story. It's almost like the mirror image of it, where we're kind of like, do you ever get that where this happens? And you're like getting a little closer to the author, or a little closer to the truth of the story.
Jackie's just sharing, okay, I can't wait to flip through the books and see where she
Awesome.
lands for me.
Yeah.
So did you discover anything new, like who Stephanie was before the writing process and who you were at the end of the process for each book so far? Was there aha moments for you? What were those aha moments?
The first thing I think of with that question is I had no idea I was that brave. Every now and then I just walk around and say to myself, you're so brave. Like, and why don't we all do this more often? Like, let's say, well, I haven't sold 1 million books. So does that mean I'm really an author? Or could I look at it like, how brave were you to give your boss your book to check out and see if he still had a
Brave.
job?
Yeah.
Like,
it is brave.
So I had
but I
no
want to be
idea
defensive for you at the same time too. If writing that book was going to cost you your job, then that job was not for you.
And I was prepared for that, right? But it's like you're stepping out of your comfort zone. So I know I learned that about myself. I like to put a book together is a lot of work. So I also learned, like, it sounds funny, I'm able to take a task from start to finish, but there are so many parts of putting a book together and publishing it. It's quite something. The hardest part's the editing, to be honest. Like, that's the technical part of the writing, and the writing part flows, right? The technical part, you slow down and you're like, okay.
The non-creative part.
Yeah.
The
Or the marketing part. What I learned about
Yeah.
myself after publishing the books, like I did what I thought was the next right step, and it was at the time, but to do a chapters book signing. And I learned that I could market the book. So it's like writing the book, editing it, marketing it. Like, and I remember someone came up to me at chapters and said, hey, I'm just curious. Like, I'm just asking you this question for me, like for himself or whatever. He's like, do you feel like you're selling your soul, like trying to peddle your own creative work? I'm like, but I'm going to get it done, because my intention was, I would like to get this book into as many hands as possible. I remember my mom read, she read the first draft. She read the final manuscript of it. And she wasn't a big reader. Like, she wasn't like I'm reading this book now, this one, and now this one. I'm not saying she didn't read books, but she really mostly didn't. But she read this one and she said, I think this book could help people. So then I was like, it was the idea that what I learned about myself was that I could create something that could potentially help someone or lift their spirits or help them sort through something. I don't think there's a better feeling than that. Yeah.
When was the first book published?
So the first one was 2012, and then the second one was 2019. Wow. They're coming out faster.
But you're in a different place, and different things have happened, right? Because life goes on, and life moves, and so you have different things to write about, right?
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yes. So the third book, if it's okay if I just continue on. Yep. So the third book is really cool. I could never say which one's better. Some people say, so there's the pink and the blue one out now, and they say, well, which one should I get? I don't know. Like, I'm stumped. I have trouble deciding for people. I have trouble deciding, like, describing the differences between the first and the second, but all the stories are totally different. This third book's a doozy. It is a doozy. So like you said, as the more I experience in my life, the more I write about it. So,
Do you find though that sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, it's
Do
fine.
you find so that's part of the whole process, right? Is really coming into a centered place. So if you have done that self-reflection and you're creating and you're processing and all of these
Mhm.
in this moment, each one you've allowed yourself to be a different person. There's a piece of you that is healed and is not creating that block anymore. So that third
Absolutely.
one,
Yes. Yeah, the third one's letting loose on the honesty about the spiritual connection between us in physical form here and our loved ones that are not so physical but are still here. I've been allowed myself just to open up and boldly and bravely talk about my experience since my mom transitioned, and it's
yeah.
absolutely incredible.
So this is more the one that you would take to your boss and go, "Hey, so
Yeah.
let's
Do I
have a
still
talk
have a
about angels."
yeah, totally. Totally. And the stories are gentle. They're not all the books, every story, the message is
Mhm.
in between the lines. So the reader's going to take whatever they need to and want to take from that story in that moment.
Well, what they're able to even, what they're able to take in
Yes.
that moment
Mhm.
and through other experiences, whether it is even therapy, they come back and read it a second time or a third time, those stories are going to impact differently.
Totally.
And they are short stories.
Mhm.
They're snippets of your thought process and experiences and
Yeah.
where it takes you.
Yes. And I've had people like some really awesome feedback about the books. Like people have people that people like the short stories that aren't avid readers because it's not demanding because of the short story.
So I was thinking about my so I have 4 children, so my second son, not a fan of reading, was never a fan of reading from the time he was little, but I could get him to read, like Ripley's Believe It or Not. If there was little factoids, like these little blurbs, then he's all in.
Mhm,
So, I mean, for those people who feel like they're not readers, like your mom, not
mhm,
a reader, but
mhm.
those short stories are like those little factoids. Here you go.
Yeah, and
And enough
yes,
to process, right? Sorry, go ahead.
totally, and it's sort of like process what, right? So the
Mhm,
stories are like encouraging us to process something. So
mhm.
I use the stories. So I run a meditation group in my community, and one of the steps towards when we're finally ready to meditate, one of the steps is I will read a story from one of the series, the Stopping the Smell of Flowers books, and the story will have a certain theme. So you can actually use these books for self-discovery or self-growth. I have a guided journal as well that goes with the books where there's certain themes to journal on, and then so there's suggested stories to read before you journal as well. So you can even take reading a story from the Stopping the Smell of Flowers books even further by starting to create with them.
Love it.
Hmm.
So stopping to smell the flowers, like daily affirmation cards next.
I think
Yes.
so.
Just a request.
I love it. I could do
So,
that. I could do
mm,
that.
coloring book,
Hmm.
it's next.
Yeah.
There's so much as you
Yeah.
start marketing.
Yes.
Um, Talk to me about, so that was another question that I had too. Therapeutic touch is also part of your
Mhm.
background and the meditation. Can you tell me how all of that sort of unfolded? Like what came first? Did the writing come first and then the meditation? Did meditation come first? Did anxiety come
Wow.
first and then meditation? Did
Oh,
stress with job or
yeah.
you know how did life
Along
unfold?
okay, along the timeline, it would be writing was first because it just brings me joy, and I
Right.
never necessarily had a plan for it, I just needed to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Differently than journaling. Like,
yeah,
this is like, it's
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's like I feel like I don't know if I have authority to use this word.
Yes, it's automatic writing.
I'm still learning. Yeah, it feels like channeling. So it's like when I
Yeah.
write, it's a release. When I journal, it's more of a release than channeling, or to get clarity. It's like more with the mind than with something else. So
When
yeah.
you go back and read it, does
Mhm.
it do you have that, like, when it's automatic writing or it's channeling, to go back and read it again, it's wow, wow, like, it's that wow moment for ourselves as well too, like, it it may sound a little different than us, the phrasings are different than us,
Yeah.
and where journaling is very clearly just us.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I have a lot to say about that too. So, yes.
Okay, I
So
will stop interrupting.
no, but this is not necessarily related to the books, but when my mom transitioned in 2020, she transitioned right. She had the last regular funeral before COVID hit. So like 2
Right.
days later they called the planes back, but it was all going down during her funeral. Anyway, so after she transitioned, I thought, and I never used that word before all the research and thoughts I've had since then, but I started to, no one told me to do this, no one suggested it, but I started to write to her. I honestly wasn't even
Mm.
really sure what automatic writing was. I remember we had an appointment once, and anyway, and okay, we're starting to get, it's all, we're good. We're not getting derailed. And so she
Not
said,
derailed.
she said, she said to you in an appointment, so when you were channeling her coming in,
Yeah.
you said, she's saying, please keep up with the automatic writing. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then I was like, what? I'm doing automatic writing. So roll the tape back. I thought to myself, what do I need to do to feel better here? And I thought, I'm going to write to my mom. No one can stop me from doing that. Nobody. Someone could think I'm crazy. They're never going to know. But let's say they knew. They found my journal that I write to my mom in. So be it. Steph wrote to her mom after she passed. Okay. So I would write, dear mom, oh my God, this is happening. What the heck? I miss you so much. Whatever I wanted to write.
Yeah.
And then I'd draw a line under that. And then I would just wait. And sometimes I'd have doubt. I'm like, you're crazy. And I'm like, whatever. I'm just whatever. And then I honestly feel it's a little different each time, but the writing would look different. Absolutely. Like anyone outside of our community that understands all this could say, you're just you're making it happen. The writing looked different.
Yes, it
The
does.
message that was written for me is not coming from my brain. That is
Yeah.
not, I wouldn't have been able to find my way out of what I wrote to her about. So she gave me, and it's almost like what she writes back is very specific, but also so gentle. Like, it's like, I don't
Yes.
write like that.
And it will be loving and
Yeah.
supportive and encouraging, like,
Yeah.
when you're doing that. And I have met other people through sessions, who do the same, write
Mhm.
to their loved ones in spirit, who
Mhm.
all of a sudden find themselves having that same experience in having that channeling coming through, and there's a response. And it's very similar to you, not necessarily wanting to talk about it out loud because they feel it will make them look crazy,
Mhm. And
but
I thought,
it's not.
there was so much grief for me there. I thought,
Yeah,
let someone think I'm crazy. Like, there wasn't much of
exactly.
a
Let
risk. Like,
them.
yeah, I'm like,
Just let
whatever they
them.
want to do, they're on their journey.
Yeah.
And it gave me so much relief that I don't do it too often anymore. But if I've got anxiety or a stressor, I will write. I'll be like, oh, I got to write to mom tonight. And then I get an answer back. And then I feel better. Nobody could argue with me on that. You feel better? Okay, good. Like, that's a
Yeah.
baseline. Who wouldn't do that? So back to your question about, so anxiety came first before meditation.
Okay.
So, and it's kind of neat to see that. Thank you for this question, because it's like on the time. I love the timeline things, because sometimes if we
Yeah.
are stopping to smell the flowers and just in the moment, which is what we should do, I think most of the time, we can kind of forget about how it all pieced together
Yeah.
into this mosaic. So extreme anxiety at one point in my life. I've had blips along the way for sure. But I went to a counselor, which I've done multiple times, and have had different counselors along the way. I have my go-to now. I'm telling you, if we all go to the dentist once a year or twice a year for cleaning and descaling, why wouldn't we go to a counselor once a year for
Oh,
some?
I'm a firm yes. Everybody should go to therapy.
Mhm.
Everybody should go to therapy at least once,
Yeah,
probably 2 or 3 times just to
love
get
it. So
Yeah.
I was going and I was like, it was like I was busy with my career, I was raising my kids, and my parents were moving to town. And they had lived in the house where I grew up for like 40 some years, and there they were moving to my small town. And my mom had Parkinson's disease, and I was like, I remember the night they moved, they got here to town late in the morning, and I said to Mom, "Oh my gosh, hi." She was in the car, the passenger seat. I was like, "Come on out." She goes, I can't. Like, she couldn't get out of the car. Like, so I remember thinking, oh my God, like, I didn't know it was that bad. I knew it was a progressive disease,
Right.
but even just that, excited for her to be close to me, and she couldn't get out of the car. And it was only more and more and more of that along the way. So I had to start managing her disease state, helping my dad. I had my career. Like, it was wild.
And how old were the
Um,
kids?
uh, the kids were, Isaac was still learning to read. I'm going to say something like 11 and 8. So I thought, this, when the cup overfloweth, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I was like, got to get myself in. So I have found this great counselor, and she asked me at one point, she was great. God, these people are like light beacons in the dark.
Those
And she,
earth angels.
yeah. And she was like, had you ever meditate? And I said, yes. And again, it's like one of those things where you don't realize you were doing it. I said to her, when everyone's in bed, I turn the lights out, I light a candle, and I just sit on the couch and I watch the candle flicker, and I watch my thoughts move by. I don't think about them, but I'll be like, oh, I didn't know I was thinking that. I didn't know I was worried about that. I didn't know that was a thing. Just watch them go by. And she goes, yeah, that's meditation. And then she said to me, have you ever heard of Tara Brach? This is my shout out to Tara Brach. So she has this website, at least at the time, I think she still has it, where there's free meditations on it. Like, so good. So I started the counselor said, try it out. I checked it out, and I started to change. So I didn't just address my anxiety. Like, I started to change for the
Shift it.
better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I felt it, but I'll never forget my kids, both of them said to me, Mom, you've changed. And it's not like I was a bad mom, but probably if you have a mom that's kind of anxious, it's not pleasant.
And what's interesting is when we shift, then we're giving our kids permission as well too to take ownership of their emotions, and that can like mirror back to us, and they can hold us accountable if we're having a moment. Because I know that especially my daughter, she would call me out, that your energy is really kind of like sucking at the moment. You should probably leave till you feel better and come back. Like, she would definitely call
It's
me
so
out.
frustrating when they call us out,
But
isn't it?
I appreciate it. And
Mhm.
that's what I want. I want them to have,
Yeah.
that ability.
Yeah, I showed them the way for sure of
Uh,
how someone can open to just saying, "Oh, if this is a 1 out of 10 thing that I need to change, I'm open to looking at it." And they literally saw me change. So
yeah.
then I thought, it wasn't over yet. I had a lot of energy before I turned 50. Then I thought, if this like, it was so remarkable. I thought, if meditation helped me, then maybe it could help other people.
Yep.
So it's like I have always have this like need to spread the word. It's like,
I'm the same way. I really think we should all, right? Link arms and kumbaya, play nice in the sandbox.
yeah,
And I mean, I realize that we do need to have teachers, but we really could have a little more love going on in the sandbox. Hi, everybody that's just joining us now. Thanks for being here. Hi. And I just want to really, really quick. Hi, Cindy and Anita. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call up your comment in a second, Anita. Just 1 second. I just want to share.
nice. I love comments. Give me your questions.
Okay, I really appreciate you being here and hanging out with us tonight. We're not giving messages from Spirit tonight. We're talking about Stephanie Malo's books, and we are talking about automatic writing and automatic channeling through this too. So, that might be something that you want to have a listen to. Hi, Sue. Thanks for being here. And Anita is just sharing She's saying, I still write to my husband and it makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us. My thought with the writing too, when we're doing that, is the Chihuahua brain that can kick in. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, itty bitty shitty thinking that happens. It can tell us like. It can try to convince us that something isn't real, even though we're having that very real experience, that visceral experience when we're feeling the emotions or feeling that connection. So I think that when we're feeling things from spirit and you write it down, it's like saying it and claiming it. It's like trying to fool your Chihuahua brain into believing what your heart already knows is true.
Yeah. It's
As soon as you
quieting that.
as soon as you put it to paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I put out on Facebook, I'm like, hey, thinking of starting a meditation group. Is anyone interested? And the response that I got, this was like 7 years ago. The response that I got was really neat. A lot of people were like, I wish I lived closer. It'd be great. Long story short, people in the community came. Like I started it out as a drop-in, trying to make it easy on everyone, I mean, maybe people are new to meditation. I guess. Anyway, people were, there was sometimes 4 people there, sometimes 8. I'll never forget when 15 people piled in. Like it was like this service, it's needed.
Oh yeah. And people have different ideas about what meditation
Mm-hmm.
looks like, or
Mm-hmm.
preconceived ideas. Hi,
Yeah.
Alicia. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Kerrilynn, I see your question. Maybe we could just bring this up, Steph.
Yeah.
If you do automatic writing, do you ask the question, topic? How do you direct the
I ask
conversation?
a direct question about a problem. Usually I'm frustrated and I'm saying, this is happening. What on earth am I supposed to do with this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I just wait. And the answer that comes back is like, it's this idea that I never would have thought of. So absolutely ask a very specific question. And just part of that process is not just asking the question, just as important is that pause.
Yes.
Waiting for the answer. Just believe, just breathe, and allow it in.
Yeah, I encourage people to write the word love repeatedly so that they remember to breathe, because sometimes they're pausing, waiting for the big burning bush moment, like, oh, here's your answer. And
Yeah.
there's a flow, and it's always through breath, which comes back
Yes.
to meditation, right?
Yes. And be open to playing with it. So maybe one day you're going to be really upset and you're like, that's it. I'm going to do some automatic writing to my loved one. But you're really, really
Emotionally
upset. Charged. It's not going to come through as easy. So play with it a bit. What happens for me is I'll be like, this is, ever so slightly, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. This is me writing, but then it'll flow out of that. So just be fluid to how it's being received each time, but it's only because of where you're at in that moment. So go as easy as you can on yourself and just open the channels, open them up.
Yeah. So the meditation started, the word got out that Stephanie's got this cute little meditation hut in her backyard.
Yeah. Well, that was later. So it started out in the library, in a room at the library called the Lion's Den, which I thought, so it's really the lions, like the people that raise money for charity.
The lion and the lioness.
But I thought that was so funny. We were meditating in the Lion's Den. But anyway, it was cute. We were safe. And it got too small. It was cute, a sweet little room. But those are good problems to have. So then we moved to the Anglican church, like just where space is available in town. And we were actually in the church part. Oh my God, I loved it. It's an old Anglican church. So in the hall, people were playing euchre and we were meditating. It was so beautiful. Like some of these things you do when you're brave. Like I'm talking about everyone here. Like we were earlier talking about, well, I learned I'm brave, but I relearn it all the time. Like you should have seen my day today preparing for this, right? Like I guess I'm being brave again. But it's like this meditation group, we needed a bigger space. And I'm telling you, some of the most amazing things, like part of what we do in meditation is listen to sounds around us. So we're in this church, like I'm actually on the steps up to the altar. Oh my God, my moment of glory. And maybe I should have been a minister. I'll have to redo that the next life. But so then I had people in the pews and we're meditating, and like you can hear a pin drop in there, and you hear laughter from the people playing euchre. You hear the cars going by outside. I'm telling you, like, we are recharging ourselves when we meditate.
Yeah.
And then one day I thought, wait a minute, I'm running this meditation group and I've written a book called Stopping to Smell the Flowers. I had never connected the dots before. All of the things that I do are like intuitively just the next step.
Yeah.
So I remember I told the group, I'm like, I don't think I told you guys this, but I've actually written a book. It's called Stopping to Smell the Flowers, Extraordinary Observations of Everyday Life. And they're like, what? And then they were all buying the book. They were buying the book for their mothers and people, friends. Then I got some merch, because like the thing is, the merch isn't just to promote the books. In fact, it wasn't the intention at all. If you put on a Stopping to Smell the Flowers t-shirt Saturday morning, you're reminding yourself, oh my gosh, I'm brave. Oh my gosh, I'm talking about anybody. Oh my gosh, I'm going to see if I can notice more moments today. No pressure. I'm just going to have the intention to slow down a bit. Necklaces. What else we got? Mugs. So then I was like, for meditation every week, I was like, I had bags. I was like Santa. I had bags of merch and books and my meditation candles and stuff. And I'm like sweating. And I'm like, I don't want to carry this stuff around anymore. So I thought, what I need is a structure on my property where people will come to meditate. And this is a fantastic end of this story. But I had an idea. So I have a she shed that's insulated. And this is where my gift shop is. This is where I do my writing. It's just in the back corner of my yard. It's insulated. Did I say that already? So we air condition it. We heat it. I love it here. I'm in it right now. And anyway, so I thought I need a structure. And so we were looking at sheds. It sounds so funny, shed. It's a fantastic magical structure. There should be like a word for that. But so we priced some of them out, and I knew what I wanted. And I just put out there, like I'm starting to play with what I'm understanding, right? So I put out there, I know I need this. I know what I want, but I don't want to pay for it. And to be totally honest, what I said was, I don't want to put it on my credit card. Like I don't have thousands of dollars for a structure in my yard to help other people. I want it to be provided.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to happen, but I kind of drew the line in the sand. Oh my goodness, everybody. This is something we're all capable of. I am seriously telling you, I got a check in the mail for the exact amount. I got a check in the mail. It was a physical check. And
it worked.
Yeah. And I remember before I got the check, I was dreaming and daydreaming. And I think we should all have more fun and daydream. So
manifesting starts with imagination.
Yeah. So I was sitting on my back deck area, and we had one of those old-fashioned clotheslines. So I was like sitting there, and I was visualizing this hut that I didn't want to pay for, where it would go. And I was like, I could see that the clothesline would be in the way, which is not a big deal. When you're visualizing, you're just like, doesn't matter. Clothesline. Yeah. So I literally went out to hang up my laundry. Same moment, like same day. And I went to put the first thing on, and the whole clothesline fell down. I was like, it's going to happen. And then I got the check in the mail.
I love it. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, when it manifests, you're like, oh, thank you very much. I'm open to allowing more. Yeah. I'm open to allowing more gifts to come. And when you notice those small gifts, big gifts, shed gifts, whatever they are, big or small, you get more.
Yes.
And it just keeps flowing.
Yes. And to add to that, I think when we're talking about stopping to smell the flowers, when we're talking about the third book, the subtitle is The Space in Between. I think there is a space where we can create from. Like, we can do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
It's fairly untapped, I think, at this point in human history.
Well, I think people, if you're, and the way that you've written it is giving them all of the steps to move up to that, right?
I
So
think
like
so.
1, 2, and then moving to that third. And
I think
if
so.
they're wanting to do that, I think it's processes. People don't, I shouldn't phrase it that way. Some people are very uncomfortable feeling all the feelings and stopping and doing that self-reflection and being
Yeah.
present and understanding, because then there's accountability. I
Yeah.
have accountability in this moment and being present, and what am I contributing to it as well too? Like, that
Yes.
there's a role that you're playing for the person across from you who is also present and having an experience as well too, and
Yeah.
you're part of their experience. So
Yes.
there, it just ripples out in understanding that we're collectively
Mm-hmm.
co-creating in
Yes.
every moment.
Yes. Yes.
I just going to come back to Contessa was asking a question, which is not a dumb question at all. Contessa, it's not a dumb question. This may be, but it's not. When doing automatic writing and your loved one spoke a different language and you can only write in English, will they understand what you are writing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. I would
It's
say,
in
go
it's
ahead.
intention. It's intention, right?
Yes. And I would say words have energy.
Yeah.
Words have an energy to them. Like, one of the things we do, in meditation. So I was saying before, the meditation group that I run, there's a certain number of steps to kind of peel back the layers to this. Like, we're so busy, what's for supper, and someone's being driven there, and this happened, and the server's down, and I forgot what I was going to say. What were we just talking about?
Well, first we were talking about if they don't.
Oh, I know what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, we unpeel those layers before meditation. So one of the things we do with the group is they choose a meditation rock in here, and each rock has a word on it. So they might be choosing that rock based on how it feels or looks, or based on the word that resonates for them. But to answer that question about different language, I think the language is a frequency and vibration that has energy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what language it is.
And we make that connection if it's a loved one that you, especially if they're your family that you've grown with, you recognize what that energy is. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to bring this up for you as well too.
That was cool.
So Kerrilynn is just commenting, but people playing euchre nearby, that's so cool. I always thought card playing had some intuition working with it, knowing when to pick up, making it trump, and then that your partner has your back. Sorry, just connecting the two. And laughter, which raises vibration, all going on in the next room, meditating while being in a church. How spiritual is that?
It was so awesome. Yeah. Yeah, there's some stuff to do with card playing too, I think. I agree with you that there's some magic there sometimes,
My son just bought a card game for us to play. It's called Love Letters, but it's a card game.
That sounds neat.
Right? Love letters. There's a connection with cards and memories, especially. But again, that's stopping in this moment. We're having this connection.
Yeah.
Playing cards and everything else. So, where did I want to go next?
So
we're still on our timeline. So the shed happens, meditation is going on.
Yeah.
Touch.
So therapeutic touch is like, it came in and out all along the timeline. So it started with my mom. So my mom was a registered nurse, and she introduced it to me back, if we roll the tape back to the beginning of our conversation with my poem in grade 9 high school. Around that time, she was interested in therapeutic touch. So therapeutic touch is a more of a modern healing modality, as I understand it, just because of who coined it. And it was 2 registered nurses in the early 70s. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, so
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's considered more modern, and what these nurses did was actually scientifically measure the impact of therapeutic touch. So to me, therapeutic touch is similar to Reiki. When I go to my therapeutic touch meetings, we often discuss, so what is the difference? And I'm not sure we really know. Does it matter? It's
No,
like
thank
the
you.
language question. It's
Yeah.
like words have energy. We have energy in us. There's energy around us.
Yeah.
So whether it's Reiki or therapeutic touch or meditating, we are shifting our energy. So
Yeah.
started by 2 RNs. So my mom was an RN. So she went to some, maybe, I don't know, I might be partially making this up because I don't remember, was interested in it. So maybe went to
So
some
maybe we could
seminars.
say that you're partially channeling it.
Yeah, I think so. Here comes my
Oh,
mom.
asking your mom
Yeah. Let's bring her in. Let's bring her in, Kerrilynn.
Jennifer's saying woot woot because she's a nurse as well too.
Nice. So
Apparently
they studied it. We could Google that if we weren't so busy with technology right now, and Google the studies where they measured the impact of the energy shift. So cool, because we're taking this energy conversation and making it scientific. And I've kind of written about that in the 3rd book as well. I've written about math. There's math in behind nature, right? Just look up Fibonacci series of numbers. There's a repeating pattern in nature, which is math. Anyway, I often think about spiritual things and how the scientific community can tend to say, we'll prove it or whatever. But it's like the therapeutic touch was putting the two together. It's really, really remarkable. So therapeutic touch became part of treatments in the hospitals. You always, as a therapeutic touch practitioner, you always have to ask permission and respect if someone says no. I'm just reading that question. Did you learn therapeutic touch, but hands-on healing is another modality? I think it's similar. Yeah. The funny thing with therapeutic touch is you rarely touch the person. It's kind of a funny term because some people might picture massage or something. You're touching their energy field.
Yeah.
And every now and then you might touch to ground them at the knees or the feet, sometimes the lower back. But you're just touching their energy field.
And people don't realize how far their energy actually goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and how you can teach them. I've taken dowsing rods and like when I was running camps for kids, like summer camps for kids that were intuitive and having spiritual experiences and connecting with the other side so that they could come together with other children that were the same as them.
Wonderful. Oh
right?
my goodness.
And so teaching them with dowsing rods and putting out that energy to show them like your energy can walk into a room or your energy hits the room before you walk in.
Yeah.
And how you can pull it in and how you can protect it and how you can move it out. Like not everybody has access or has heard of that before, right? So the sooner we start it, the better.
Yeah.
Mary Jo is just sharing therapeutic touch using palliative care.
Yeah. One of the things I want to do one day when I'm retired is do that kind of work in palliative care, and I would love to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So therapeutic touch came in here and there along the timeline. Like it was an added dimension, and every now and then I'm like, do I have time for this? Steph, do you have time for this? So I'm really careful lately to reassess in the moment, stopping to smell the flowers every time there's a meeting, or it's like, does this work? So bringing stopping to smell the flowers into every aspect most of the time. Anyway, so there's 3 levels to complete. So I've completed all 3 levels. So I'm at the point now where I need to get 75 case studies done before I'm a practitioner. But I'm just loving the journey. Like, so people will come to the meditation hut for a free session because that gets me my case study. And it's so neat. Now, as a practitioner, we're not supposed to counsel. We're just supposed to, so the healee and the healer, we're working as a team. There's really nothing to discuss. It's like, let's do this. Go ahead.
Well, and I think sometimes Well, for myself, I have trouble with that word healer as well too, right? Because we're the in between.
Mhm.
It's being of service and allowing that to f- flow through us and move it the way that we're, and the person who's actually the healer is the person receiving because they're allowing.
It's a dance together, and it's
Yeah.
an energetic dance. And so people will tell me, so all I do is listen after. Um, I try hard just to listen. I'm a talker. But anyway, people will tell me what they saw during the session. It is fantastical.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful. And each person is totally different. Someone might not say what they saw, but they might say they inherently knew what area I was working in. I am not touching them. I'm quiet. Like I just work around like stealth. And they know, they're like, I felt this pulling up my shoulder. And it's both people in that process are sensing intuiting and moving energy. It's
Yeah.
such an honor. Like
It is.
mhm.
It is very much so. Jennifer is sharing. I would absolutely feel energy and use it when I was at the.
Mm, mhm. So is Jennifer, are you a therapeutic touch practitioner? Maybe she
I'm
can.
not sure where you're at in the journey too. She was retired, then not retired nurse,
Mhm.
counseling.
Yeah,
So
it is.
it is,
It really
and
is.
that's always been my thought as well too. That um, alternative healing modalities are using energy, and it's just a different name and maybe a different approach, but in essence, it's all the same. Same.
Mhm.
She's saying, I took a course
Mm,
on.
yeah. Yeah, so this was, some of these effects were scientifically studied, and yet I think it was level 2 therapeutic touch, there were the teacher had brown paper bags, so you're supposed to choose one. It's kind of like your cups with which one has the crystal behind it.
Yeah,
And we were supposed to just, again, like the automatic writing, like settle down, like just not so much here, just more here in the heart space.
yeah,
And really like just write about, are you seeing like you couldn't see what the contents of the bag was. Are you seeing a color? Is it giving you a feeling? Are you feeling something in your body? Just write it all down, what you're sensing, and then reveal what was in there. And you're like, holy,
yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was actually a practice. Michelle Plummer, I know that you had said hello if you're still with us. Michelle Plummer, she was so gracious and she's just a fabulous friend. We've become friends over time. So she had this opportunity. She said, "Hey, I've got this space. Do you think that you would want to get away before the craziness of October through Christmas for you starts?" And she said, "And I left a little game for you." And I said, "Oh," she said, "I've got a present, but I put it in a brown paper bag, and I want you to try to guess what it is first." And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that. No problem." And so it's something that I haven't done it for a while, but it is one of the intuitive practices that I put on the group that I run on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
So with all of it, whether it's that practice, moving through your books, that stopping, it's helping you um blend all of those bodies, your
Mhm.
etheric, emotional, mental, physical. There has to be that blending so that you're in that fully centered, fully present. And
Yeah.
if any of those are off kilter, then you don't, it's gonna sound like the teacher is from Charlie Brown. It's
Yeah.
muffled.
Yeah. Yes. And also, I would say that because all those components need to have some sort of alignment for it all to go smoothly, um, I think a really important thing to do to get to that space is to say to yourself, is to kind of take the pressure off and say, I'm going to try, but it doesn't matter as long as I'm having fun in the trying. Or, for example, when I'm writing a story, back to that sort of tap on the shoulder, who do you think you are? when I'm writing out a story, I will just say, Steph, I'm giving you full permission to never publish this story. Just get it out. Just get it out first.
Yeah.
So like this permission to screw up, or this permission to, it'll never be published. I'll never use it. It doesn't matter. I just need to express it.
High intention, low attachment.
Yeah. Yes. There's a combination there that really works. And I really do think that if we could say to ourselves, this sounds like it's negative, but it's not, because it's where the intention's coming from. But it's like, I'll never be done. Like, what if we said to ourselves, I'll never be done. I'll never get it exactly right. So that gives me permission to just have fun right now.
Yeah. I wonder how this is going to play out. I'm like a little kid Christmas morning, but every day. Oh, I wonder how this is going to play out. I wonder how this is going to, unfold.
And we don't have to get it perfect. We don't have to get it perfect.
And I've learned to use the phrase too, I'm in the process of, which felt more true than always saying I am. Because if I was saying I am, then and if it didn't feel truthful, I was immediately shutting that down, right?
Yeah. And what if it's a lifelong process? It takes the pressure off.
100%.
You can just relax and have fun.
There's a few more questions here. I want to make sure that we can approach those. So therapeutic touch uses numbers from science math, or just originally?
No, what I was referring to was that the original founders of therapeutic touch did scientific studies that were published to show the effect of the energy.
From start, before, and after?
Say that again. Sorry.
Like from before somebody receiving therapeutic touch and then after measuring,
or
during?
We'll have to talk about that the next time I'm on your show. we need to look it up.
It might be a Google search, Kerrilyn's.
Yeah, like it could have been something like patient reported effect, or but it was more than that. It was more than that. And the one thing I can maybe quote that would help describe what I'm saying a little bit better, but it's not about therapeutic touch, it's more about energy during meditation, is there was a study done where they were measuring, this is so cool, they were measuring light emitted during a meditation via someone meditating. So the room is dark. They have some equipment to measure photons of light.
Yeah.
While this person's meditating. And first round, nothing happened. There was no light emitted more than the normal amount of light emitted on a given dark room day.
Right.
And then the person that was meditating got a phone call that his son was not well. So they stopped the experiment. He went home and looked after his son, came back, and they tried the study again. And this time when the person meditated, they meditated sending out healing prayer, thought, energy to his son. And the amount of photons of light that was measured was like, again, I don't have the numbers here, but it was significant. So it was like the combination of the intent to help or to a loving presence healing was like 10,000 times the amount of photon lights measured in the meditation room.
I love that. So there is a study, because I have told people we are like Care Bears, right? Like how we're shooting that energy out.
Yeah.
I jokingly say that mine's a glittery taco symbol on my belly. And you're going to get, those yummy vibes one way or another. I'm sending out. But there's actually a study for it. That's awesome.
I can send you the study if you want.
That's brilliant.
But I have to look up the therapeutic touch studies, but it was measurable results that somebody felt better, or maybe any kind of symptom that was measured was down, like blood pressure or whatever it was. I'm making stuff up because I don't have the study at my fingertips.
Denise is just sharing, I attend circles with others once a month, and we do energy exchanges, meditations, and different exercises, and you definitely feel energy move.
Yeah,
exactly. Jennifer is just sharing, we would also practice on each other therapeutic touch at the nursing station.
Yeah.
The heat when you find an area that needs attention is so obvious. It is all about staying in the space of wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. And my kids, as when they were little, if they weren't feeling well or growing pains, they'd be like, Mom, can you do therapeutic touch on me? And so it started out as just something I was interested in. So, I took level 1 decades ago and then just continued on with it. It was that tap on the shoulder. It was a bit of a knowing that, no, this is more than just, this is part of what I want to experience while I'm here.
Yeah. If anyone is just joining us, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. And today on the show, we have author Stephanie Malo with talking about her book series, Stopping to Smell the Flowers. Thanks for joining me and hanging out.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
It was when I said you should come on the show, you're like, what?
Huh?
Really?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Like, yes. No.
Me?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It was like I have had 2 things other than getting married, having 2 kids. The 2 things that have happened in my life that I'm like, these are huge. One was somebody told me that they put sticky notes all through the first book so that they would know where to go back to relook at what they just read. Biggest compliment ever. And the second thing would be on the show tonight.
Aww, like
I just no, like 2023 was a rough year for me, and there were 2 fun things in 2023, and one of them was going to your thing in Palmerston. I forget, it wasn't Dining with the Dead, but it was something else. It was called
the Love Life Afterlife at the Hairston Theater.
Yeah. Like my life's complete. I didn't get any messages from my loved ones, but I will tell you, it didn't matter. I left that place feeling like I was flying home. And days later, I just felt this sense of peace and understanding and that everything's okay. It was so beautiful. So to be on your podcast, I feel like I'm dreaming.
I always feel after those events, I asked my daughter, or I don't think Brooklyn was at that one, but my friend Jody was there. I was like, did I overshare too much?
No, never. I know.
There's some oversharing that happens, but
no.
I mean, transparency, and it's about sharing stories, and we learn from those lessons, right? Yes. And being okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so pleased that you're here. Cindy is sharing about meditation. Oh my gosh, I have felt that too when doing Morganis and Joe Dispenza's meditation in a group. You feel it in your heart.
Yeah.
Denise is sharing, I start heating up when I'm near someone that needs energy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. So Cindy is just asking. So we do, if you look at the bottom of the screen, if you are watching, and I'm just going to say it out loud for those people who are going to be our audio listeners later, it is stopping to smell the flowers. .com. Is it stopping to smell the flowers book.com? No, stopping to smell the flowers.com.
Yeah. And that's my preferred way for you to buy. However, my preferred way is for you to get the book however you want to get it. So it is also on Indigo and Amazon. Like you can order the book on Indigo and it gets shipped to the store. It's just fun. Get it however you want to get it. Amazon's crazy. They may say the book's $130 tomorrow and today it's 12 cents. So I don't know. It's crazy. They seem to determine their own prices. Anyway, the whole book industry is quite interesting. But if you order it from my website, it just really tickles my heart. Is that a saying? Tickles my heart?
Yeah.
Preferred method. I'm also taking on my website. It's the only place you'll find it is pre-orders for the 3rd book. So exciting. Really, when it's my time to go, I will go a happy person because people are buying the 3rd book and it's not even in physical form yet. How do you like that? The space in between books.
Right. It's humbling. It is humbling. And then it is a privilege. That's how I see what I get to do, getting to do this, getting to meet people, getting to do sessions, getting to do these events. This year, at the moment, I do have events that are coming up that haven't been publicized yet because I haven't had time to get tickets organized. So
Yeah.
like there's still 3 more events. But other than that, like every venue has sold out. There's not a venue open for the whole year of
So amazing.
2024. Everything is sold out already. All the available spots for readings are booked. So we're booking in 2025. We've got a waiting list starting for that. And when you get to that place where people are acknowledging what you do, that they're benefiting from it, it's humbling and puts you
Yeah.
in this place of
Yeah.
like, pinch me, pinch me,
Yeah.
pinch me.
There's a need. And I do think we're evolving as a species. That's such a weird word. I think
Species
we're
or
evolving
species?
species. Back to the science, the
Right,
scientific
right.
facts.
But I do think that we are evolving more, and people are needing it. People are wanting to feel connected, and
Mhm.
not just to the other side, but to each other, and
Yeah.
understand themselves. Like there is
Yeah.
growth happening,
Yeah.
despite any shite that we do have around us.
Yeah.
Um, what you are offering to people is taking a look. Like it doesn't have to always look pretty every day. It's not
Mhm.
always pretty. These
Yeah.
are the moments and the frustrations and these feelings, and
Yeah.
if we pause and reflect,
Yeah.
this is where we can get to from that.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of it is in that pausing and reflecting, um, look how far we've come. Like, I think we're always trying to achieve this ultimate thing. Like, did I sell 1,000,000 books?
Mhm.
Why? It's like you said, I would like that, but I'm so happy right now. Like
Yeah.
when I did book signings at Chapters, or at a market, the people I talked to, I'm like, I'm honored I had that interaction. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
much money it would be worth to trade the money for the interaction. So it's a currency, right? Money is a
Yeah.
currency, but these interactions are like priceless. Really cool to
Yeah.
witness this. It's like bearing witness to moving of energy. It's not just therapeutic touch. It's around us and we have access to it.
So I'm going to share Carolyn's comment. It's so funny, Carolyn, because I had somebody mention to me the other day that they were saying my name, Kerrilynn, as Kerrilynn,
Oh,
and it got anyway. Squirrel. Carolyn is just sharing. I feel like the veil is thinning, and the planets is the age of Aquarius, new age. There's definitely
yeah.
something.
Let's just give ourselves permission to have fun. Like, just have fun. Don't be. I do tell myself this a lot. Don't be so serious. Have a plan, and then don't forget to have fun. Dolores Krieger.
Loretta's just sharing. Dolores Krieger, one of the founders of Therapeutic Touch, her book Therapeutic Touch, How to
Yeah.
Use Your Hands to Help and Heal, has written a few books.
Yeah.
And fun is a big part of it. Fun, and I think with the fun is that you're breathing. Like
Mhm.
when you're having fun, you're fully breathing. You're
Yeah.
fully in that space, and yeah.
Yeah. And
When
I do think there's a bit of an equation. Having fun, being open, being relaxed, breathing. It sounds like a lot of pressure to remember all those things, but it's really like just centeredness.
Yeah. I'm so glad kale wasn't on that list.
No, we're going to skip that. Although I have made kale chips before and they're really good. You sprinkle garlic powder on them and salt. Wow. But no, we're not going to talk about kale.
Okay. Sorry.
It's really high in fiber. I have a degree in nutrition, so I always have my like science mind. I have the science, and then I got this spirituality, and I'm putting them together.
But I love that. So that comes back to, you have that nutrition background and you do all those, trusting that when you are led to do something is it matters. All of it matters. Even if it doesn't last very long, that piece is going to be a part of the story that unfolds one way or another. It's all important, all of it.
It's almost like I often picture like stepping stones in the water, or like you're stepping from here to here, and it's like, enjoy the journey. Like you don't have to finish it and complete it correctly.
Well, and that you can enjoy it regardless of whatever is going
Mhm.
on. If
Mhm.
you're in that space, and it's a practice.
Yeah.
It is a practice, and it's not always easy if you are trying to undo learned behavior,
Yes.
undo patterns of choice and
Yes.
beliefs,
And
right?
I think I've done a lot of thinking about this over the last 4 years or so, and, I think we've focused, at least I'm speaking from myself, but kale chips are the best. Um, if you have to eat kale. I would have made a bad dietitian. Anyway, my life purpose is unfolding before my eyes, so it's all good.
Do you find it that's part of it though? If you're staying in this moment, this is the lesson that understanding path and purpose is not as elusive as it appears to be for some people.
Yeah, it's just one little step at a time. Like, you can
Yeah.
move mountains. You just chip away at it every day. Like, that's how I wrote the 3rd book, and I think the last time I was talking to you, I confided, I said, "I don't even remember writing it," which made me people scared to pre-order it, but it's like, it's
So
because
my ebook was the same. I
yeah,
channeled that I
yeah,
channeled it. The ebook was totally just channeled out, and then I couldn't even tell you what was in it
yeah,
because
yeah, and if you just chip away at these things, holy, all of a sudden you've got a book and you're editing it. So, don't even focus on the make a plan and then come back to this step and this one and this moment and that. And I do think I'm playing with this a lot lately in terms of co-creation that you mentioned a
yeah.
few minutes ago. And there seems to be some sort of equation. Um, I'll let you know in my 4th book, uh, which is underway. But it's not a Stopping to Smell the Flowers book, where the part of the equation is being relaxed and feeling happy. Now, if you're in the middle of grief, you can't, like, you have to go easy on yourself. I get that. Like, life's hard and there's different types of grief. It can be
Yeah.
loss over a job, or it could be loss of something that never happened and stuff like that. So, but I still need to come back to, I think the co-creation happens when we are in a place of happiness and relaxation. We can actually start to create things from that space, which is related to the subtitle, The Space in Between, for the 3rd book. I'll give you a quick example because it helps. Stories help, not just the words.
Stories
Right?
do help. Yep.
So I'm paying close attention to this lately as if I were a scientist, because that's how you can teach others to do it. So, really simple example. I was waking up one morning and I just felt happy. Like, most of my life I woke up feeling miserable, but I've done lots of work. So this, like, it's not uncommon for me to wake up happy and go, I love my bed. I can't wait for my coffee and my breakfast, and just waking up to this, yay, another day, which is so hilarious because I never spent my 48 years before that doing that at all. But I woke up happy and I was like, and then I was picturing tennis balls, like, specifically picturing, and I'm waking up, so I'm not totally awake yet. And I pictured taking the lid off. You know what? Does anyone play tennis? And you take the lid off, and then you crack that thing open, and you smell the tennis ball. I was picturing that. Anyway, and I was picturing squeezing the ball. And then I thought, as I'm waking up, I'm like, I like to play tennis. So I was like, but I don't spend a lot of time thinking about tennis. And I was like, will I buy new tennis balls this year? Like, just waking up, thinking about my coffee. And then it was done, right? So then I get my coffee, I go back to bed. I'm scrolling through Instagram. Scrolling. And I see this video of something being made. And I'm like, what is that? Like, it was really interesting. I didn't keep scrolling. Like, what is that? What are they doing? And then I thought, oh, it's like it started to become something-ish. And I thought, oh, is that muffin tins? And I'm sure it was like muffin tins. It kept putting it back in the oven, back out again, working hard on that. They were making tennis balls. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it felt like, and you only go back to, like, someone might say, oh, so you saw a video of tennis balls being made on Instagram.
Mm.
That's not, it's how it felt. I was smiling. I was laughing. It was like this connection with some sort of knowing that maybe in the space in between my thoughts waking up and this on Instagram were somehow connected. It was amazing.
And I love that you were like smelling it. And
Yeah.
then you're watching a video of something coming in and out of an oven.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that too, right? Like,
totally.
and
It's
I
like
think
comical.
when you start recognizing too that, um when you're manifesting something, how fast it can manifest. So
Mhm.
you're imagining it, you're feeling as if it already is in place, or you just have this fleeting thought, but you're in that constant state
Yeah,
of being open-hearted and happiness and play, how quick those things come, that you are responsible for that. You can have accountability. When it starts
yeah.
to fall apart, are you contributing to allowing it to fall apart even
Mhm.
more? And I know that I can watch it unravel quickly, and
Yeah,
then I can put it back together and move it forward 10
and that's
steps.
a humbling thing because I think a lot of
Mhm.
times we're manifesting and unraveling. And
Yes,
it
we
comes
are.
back to the beginning part of our conversation of that ego, the self-doubt, the limiting
Yeah.
beliefs. We're in that space a lot of why we can't do it, why we shouldn't. And if we just shift over to why the heck not? Does it
Exactly.
make you happy?
And creating your space at home so it is your sanctuary place to be in that as your norm.
Mhm.
Like, and if you only can have a space that you can carve out in your home, because
Yes.
everybody else may not be on board
Yes.
or other people may not, but you've got that space that you can carve out.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we step outside the door,
Mhm.
we're slammed with everybody who may
Yes.
not be in that space. So we
Yes.
have to be very grounded and okay to, if we get knocked off kilter, come back to ground center and
Yes.
realign, right?
Yes.
Kerrilynn is just commenting about your light flickering.
Is it? Well, that's my mom. Probably, because I don't see it flickering in here, but she plays with the lights a lot.
So from our vantage point, the light definitely is flickering from your left-hand side. Gets
Not in here
bright
at all.
and dim.
That's
Bright.
wild. I can't wait to watch it back.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put it up so that it'll be your marker point.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Your marker point.
This is
Can you
so
talk
cool.
about when we were talking about signs,
Mhm.
I wanted to ask a question, now I feel like I'm stepping into it. So if you do not want to answer the question,
I
feel
will
okay
I will
and
talk about
say
it.
that we have to all purchase the book.
Ah! Well, you're gonna do that anyway, everybody.
Yes.
Just kidding. Only if you
No.
want to. Only if you want to.
It's the story about the coffee pot and receiving
Oh,
signs
I
and angels.
love that. I, um, I have a video. I have evidence. I have all the evidence collected. It's just so joyful. So I have a Keurig coffee machine in my meditation hut, and I've had this hut here for I think this May will be 3 years. So it was year one, and I was out here doing my thing again, feeling happy, feeling peaceful in my centered space. That's where the channel opens. I'm telling you, don't feel pressure though. And
Yeah.
so I was sitting in here, and the my desk was somewhere closer to the Keurig at the time. I was feeling good. See, I'm collecting the data here. I was feeling good. And I look at the Keurig, and it so the Keurig has an on button and then like a 8 ounce, 10 ounce, 12 ounce, or something like that. 6, 8, 10, who knows? So the green power button went on, uh, and then it went off, and the 6 ounce went on, the blue, 8 ounce, 10 ounce. I'm like, what? And it kept doing that power button. I mean, whose Keurig has ever done this? Nobody ever. And if it does, I don't want to hear about it. So it was like, do, do, do. And then it would go faster. Do, 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 do. And I was like, I had truth bumps from head to toe. I think I was vibrating goosebumps. Okay. I was like, and I was ever so slightly like frightened because this was early on. And I just said, with all these, I have goosebumps thinking about it. I just said,
Yeah.
I'm not
Great
afraid.
story.
I said, hi, mom. And it kept going and going. And so I took a video of it, and then it stopped. And I was like, is it done? And I was okay with it. I said, I guess it's done. And then it lit up again, lit up again. And the thing is, like, it was mom's energy. That's how she felt to me. She played, she was silly, like, and she wasn't like a jokester. It's so hard to describe somebody. Just playful and funny, lighthearted.
Yeah.
It was like my Keurig was skipping along, and it was mom. Like, so so amazing.
I And that's in the moment, right?
Mhm.
It's just allowing. And I believe that the more that you acknowledge it, the more that you say it, you claim it. So thank you very much. Can you bring that on again?
Yes.
And I'm open to all these different ways. And people who feel disconnected from their spirit or disconnected from their loved ones, the more that they bring those sort of mindfulness practices, can begin
Yes.
to feel connected again.
Yes. And there were so many others that happened, like evidential stuff that she's still out there.
Michelle saying that sounds like my request that I ask, turn the coffee pot on if you're going to
Yes.
wake me up in the morning from the
Yeah.
dead folks.
And then after, do you want to hear another light story that was recent?
Mm-hmm.
I finished the third book, Stopping to Smell the Flowers, The Space in Between. And I was so elated. Again, it's in that moment that I finished writing it and editing it. And I was like, this is just me. I honestly thought, damn, this is good. Like this book, I'm impressed. If only one person is impressed and it's me, I'm okay with that. But I finished the book like it was like a benchmark.
Yeah.
And I walked inside and I saw my son. And he's like, "Can you give me a ride to work? But I gotta do my laundry first." I'm like, sit down here. And we have this seasonal room. And I said, sit down. I just need to tell you something. And I looked at him. I said, I just finished the third book and it's a doozy. Like it's going somewhere. Like this is just me setting my intentions, but I meant it in the moment. Okay. So I was moving this. I could feel it. I still had like this awesome feeling about it, almost moving my energy and telling Isaac about this book. It's done and it's a doozy. And he was like, he celebrates with me, he's like, he's 16. He's like, I'll believe it. Like, good job, Mom. Like, it's great. And he's like, I need to do my laundry now before work. I'm like, okay.
We're out of your moment and back into mine.
Yeah. So he goes to turn the basement light on to go do his laundry. And it's strobe lights. It is strobe lights. I have a video of it too. It's like really remarkable. Again, anyone from a different community might say, you might need an electrician to check your coffee maker out and your light in the basement. And I'm like, I will nod and I'll say, okay, if you think so. But I'm like, how does it feel though? I mean, look at this. It's like a disco is in the basement. And Isaac looks at me. He knows. He looks at me like, holy, this is interesting, And then you go to turn the light off because you don't want to see the flickering anymore. And it still flickered. Like the light was off. Still like strobe lights. And it wouldn't stop. I'm like, everybody, come look at this. Take a look. Who do you think it is? And they're all like, Grandma. Like they're used to it. It's like she's part of our light life, the light show. And but then it was like it wouldn't stop. As soon as I walked down there, it stopped. Like it even connected me with it, that I calmed it down.
It's validating, right? It's very validating when you can have those experiences. And I'm just going to toss something out to you to mull over as well too. That your energy can also produce that as well too. Like your joy can also produce.
Yeah, it was like,
and then it draws it in and it just keeps growing from it, right?
I felt like Mom and I were doing that together.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, she is that. It even confirmed for me, not just about the third book and its validity, but that she's right here with me. And I walked around, I wasn't thinking about the book anymore. I was like, oh my God, we don't actually die when we go.
Celebrating.
I already knew that, but it was with such conviction after that I have given myself full permission to just do my life now and no holding back.
It's empowering. And I think a lot of us would like to get to that place, right? That, for whatever reason we hold back. But when you're staying from moment to moment to moment, then you're not worrying about what this person's saying or projecting or the coulda, shoulda, wouldas that go through our head.
Yeah. Yeah. It's practice, just like meditation is a practice and we never get it 100% right. But it's in the noticing, I think. I always say to people that come to a meditation session that have never meditated before and think they wouldn't be good at it. A lot of people say that. And I'm like, actually, meditation is just noticing. you could have an entire meditation where you had a monkey mind. But if you just notice that busy mind, you're making your grocery list and you're thinking about that. If you just notice it, that's there, that's meditating. You did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Stephanie, I just want to, being mindful of time as well too. I know that you had jotted down some little notes, so I just want to make sure that we've addressed the things that you would want to share with everybody and making full use of our time that we
Okay,
have together.
this is a good question. I think we covered a lot.
Okay.
I think we talked earlier about the categories in the second book, where it's broken out into,
Yeah.
like, you could, if you wanted to read, let's find a category again.
Reflections.
If you want, you could
Self-reflections.
use the book and flip it open and like an oracle card and go, oh, I was meant to read this right now. Like, and to trust that process,
Yeah.
because you're starting to play with this energy we've been talking about. If we look at the subjects as they were grouped, like synchronicity and symbolism, hobbies and interests, you could also use the categories to go, what do I need help with right now? And again, go back to that centered space, which means just breathing, letting go. You don't have to be right. But if I looked at this first page, do I need solitude, a solitude story right now? Do I need a rest and recharge? Or do I need a lost and found? I think I'd pick lost and found. And then you go and see what story title resonates for you. And the books are somewhat interactive that way. I wanted to also...
They're fully interactive. And what it's doing is bringing self-awareness, right? It's bringing self-awareness through self-discovery and self-reflection.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do that, to get to that space of openness.
Do you have people comment back or email you back going, this story reminded me of this story, and I had my aha moment from this as well too? Like, you're helping me remember my own moments.
Yeah. Somebody emailed me once and said, people email me all along the way in their journey in reading the books. I remember someone once said, the story that I just read, and I think it's on my website as like a testimonial, just story I just read reminded me that, like, reassured me that I'm on the right path. And I think, like, how cool. Like, I think she described to me that she was on the cusp of changing jobs. And it was like this feeling of groundlessness, like you're not sure if you should or not. Yeah. And she was like, I just read this story that gave me the confidence and the security to know, no, this is right. Like, just to shift over to, instead of being on the fence, and that it brought a lot of healing.
And it's not all short stories. There's poetry in it as well too.
Yeah. And I realized writing the third book, so both the first and the second book, the pink and the blue, have poetry worked in. And a lot of the first book has my mom's poetry. So there's even this sense of satisfaction with lineage, like my mom wrote poems. We just described her as someone that doesn't read a lot of books, but she wrote poems, and I had the intuition to include her poems interspersed in the books. Then in the second book, the blue one, I started to put my daughter's poem. There's a poem by my daughter in it, and it was written when she was 6. We're all capable of channeling and creating no matter what our age. But anyway, I remember the kids were little. She was 6. Isaac would have been 3. And I was taking them out for a toboggan. Like, I've just pulled them around on the toboggan, but it was dark out. And I remember my daughter went out the back door. We're all dressed up in our winter gear. Got the sled going out the back door, and she stopped. Like, these moments, like, they're everything. She stopped. And she literally out loud recited a poem she just made up about the night and the snow and the toboggan. It's very short, but I captured. I was like, I got my pen out, wrote my 3 words down, and I got it. So that's in the second book. And then there's a real doozy in the third book. But all of a sudden, as I was writing / channeling the third book of what I wanted to say, what needs to be said, all of a sudden I thought, oh my gosh, my mom and my daughter wrote poems. And so then I put one of my mom's poems and one of my daughters that she had written recently at the time, let's say she was like 15 when she wrote it, side by side in the third book. Mm-hmm. And there's a similar story in the poem. It is like it's beyond words. Ha, no pun intended. So yeah, there's poetry.
But how we're connected, right? Mm-hmm. How we are connected even if we're not with those people in the physical anymore.
Yeah.
That, you know, that piece of them is within us to access and remember and honor.
I'm still checking my lists. If anyone has any other questions while I'm looking.
So there was, it's not a is it a workbook? You don't call it a workbook. Do you call it a workbook?
I call it a journal. The art, what is it called? The Art of Presence is what the journal is called. Yeah. So it's like a hands-on start to play with these stories and relate them to, like, explore how they relate to you, because
how to go deeper with it.
Because I only ever write a story that I know others will resonate with. I'm not just writing about my moments, although on a surface level, it might look like that. But this knowing and this channeling of what is a story, it's a story because the energy of it will translate and transmute to people that are ready to grow with it. So there's tools like the Art of Presence journal that you can start to do stuff with it. So these stories in this story theme, what does that mean to me? Because we're all going to put our own life into these energetic stories. So the journal, I wrote that down here somewhere. The journal has, and I should mention, here's a good one to mention. I also have, if someone is like, oh, journaling's not really for me, although this does have a bit of journaling to it. I have something on my website called the Art of, what's it called? A Course in Presence. It's been quite a day. It's a Course in Presence. So just go to the website and read what the course is about. But I've broken up the course into different categories. And this is a course, if you buy it, it's like you just buy it through the website, but you can redo the course over and over. It's like yours as long as I'm alive and my website's still up.
Yeah.
But
because it will change each time too. Each time you come back around.
It will help you grow with all of this. So some of the titles of the Course in Presence, of course, related to the stories of Stopping the Smell of Flowers, are health goals. I mean, we have this physical body. It's a tool. Like we're on the leading edge with this physical body for a limited amount of time, but we want to look after it. We don't have to eat kale, but it's like starting to reflect on what we want to do to look after this physical body that is helping us transmute energy.
So I used to, about the transmuting energy, I would say, when I'm eating, which sometimes is not always the healthiest choices, but everything in moderation. But I'll say, please let me absorb what's going to be the healthiest for me to absorb, and I'm donating the rest to the universe. And thank you very much.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And for me, I have a saying to myself, it doesn't always work, but it's the intention is good. My body hears the intention. I say to myself, what do I want to put in my body right now? Because foods probably have a frequency too. I'm just saying. So today I was like, so I was like, what do I need to put in my body today? I was a little on edge. I've never been on a live podcast before. It's been fantastic. So I thought, what do I want to put in my body? And I'm like, nothing. I don't, but I'm like, but you need to eat. So I had this apple. Oh my God, it was delicious. And I felt better after, right? So what does my body want in it right now? And choose from there. Another subject of the Course in Presence is facing our fear. Sometimes if we just stare it down, it's not so big. Like we can make it seem bigger than it is. Grief.
Koala brain always makes it bigger
Yeah.
than what it
Yeah.
actually is.
Grief. What is it like being you? Life goals, kindness, presence, a place called home. So we just kind of like start to create together with this course, and start to open the channels, basically.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm.
And is all the other merch there too? And Instagram. I would encourage people to follow Stopping to Smell the Flowers book is what it the name is on Instagram,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because you've got videos and you have a group.
Yeah. So yeah, Instagram, I'm usually posting videos, like short reels about the stories, like different theme every week, just about what the stories are about. And then I have my Stopping to Smell the Flowers, a Healing and Resource Center Facebook group. And that is, I post a lot about upcoming meditation sessions in the meditation hut, and feel good, like thoughts of the day memes or whatever you call those. Like, if you just on the
Little
run,
inspirational.
if you see this thing, you're like, oh, a lot of people are like, I really needed this today, and it's just this, it's almost like meditation in the memes of,
Yeah,
you got this, it's okay. And then I have a Facebook page that is primarily about the books. But I will be honest, I think Instagram is linked to the page. So whatever I post on Instagram goes to the page. And that's called Stopping to Smell the Flowers. Stopping to Smell the Flowers, Extraordinary Observations of Everyday Life.
all the links are on the website as well too, are they not?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
the little hyperlinks that will take you places.
Yeah.
Shane and Tammy Johnnings, excited to read your books. This is the first time I've heard of them. I'm so grateful to have hopped on here when I did. Thank you for being here.
Much. Yeah.
This has been a blast. Want to do it again?
Yeah. I can't believe how fast it went by.
Right? It does go by fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so book 3 is the fall. That's what you're aiming for the release. So maybe shortly after that, we can have you back on and continue the conversation.
That would be cool. When the veil is really thin, starting in October.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then it just stays crazy. There's so much going on. I would like to encourage people to my website is kerrilynshellhorn.com, and sign up for a newsletter. It will keep you posted of where I'm going to be at. There's an intuitive tip or tool for you to practice. There's also the upcoming guest. I try to have those listed so that you know who's coming on the show. You can do a bit of research about them before they come on. And all the things that I've got going on, the in the know, because you just never know with social media. Sometimes it takes a little sideways turn and doesn't work the way that it should. Thank you so much to everybody that's been part of the show today. Thank you for being part of the conversation, asking all the great questions and comments. I appreciate you guys being here. If you want to hang out through the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, Jeffrey Pritchett is up next with his show Church of Mabus, and I'm not sure what's happening next week, so you're going to have to all join me back again next week. But thank you to the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for being here. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.